Hello, everyone. It is Dr. Tracy here, and I wanted to drop in and share, just in my own layoff experience and my journey, what is going on. So, today is March 25th, I believe, or 26th, maybe, right around there when this is being recorded. And I am very excited because a friend had told me a few months back, not a few months back, it was like a month ago, maybe, about a potential opportunity at the company she works for a manager of organizational learning. And I thought about it for a while and kept reading through. I read through the job description so many different times, and it was not I don't feel like it was a very general. It was pretty detailed of like the things that you would do in the position. I read a lot about the company. I had a call with her, I talked with her and asked her questions about the company and the structure and perspective of learning and a lot of different things. And I ended up having a call last week with the recruiter to do a phone screen, and I had done a lot of prep for that call and thinking about the STAR method, which, if you're not aware of that for interviewing, you can Google that easily. STAR method for answering questions. And I was pulling together what are some of the top skills that you need for this type of role, and looking at, okay, what are my STAR examples for each of these skills, so I would be able to answer those. So I did the phone screen, and she had said by the end of that week I would hear if I would be moved on to the second round, or not the second round, like the interview with the hiring manager. I had not heard back by the end of that week, and so I had emailed out on that next Monday and sent a note and said, hey, just checking in, like, I am really interested in this, and even more so, after speaking with you, which I was really excited about it, and trying not to get my hopes up. I think that's the hardest part, because that's so out of your control what ended up happening from there. And it took a while. A lot of people are getting sick the last few weeks, like just around here and other states and everything like that. So I thought, oh, maybe she's sick or something. Like, just wait, just be patient. And so later last week, I got an email back of, saying, hey, I'm really sorry about the wait. Thank you for your patience. Like, we do want to move you to the interview with the hiring manager. Can you give me some dates and times in the next couple weeks? So I was super excited, nervous as well. And so I provided some dates, and probably provided more dates in that first week, this week, than the second week, hoping that we would be able to do it then. And she had given me a rough timeline of when they were expecting to move through the process, and that's one of the questions that I asked in the phone screen was, what do the next steps look like? What does the overall hiring process look like? That kind of thing, just so that I would have that awareness and I'm not freaking out in between anything, worrying or not knowing. So she came back pretty quickly last Friday and set up my interview for 1 p.m. on Monday, which was yesterday. And so I had my interview. It was a video conference interview with the hiring manager. Very nice guy, very smart. We have a lot of similarities in our educational backgrounds, and some in our corporate backgrounds as well. And so we talked it was just over an hour. I think we went 5 minutes over. And he gave me some insight into the company and some of the things going on in the company and in the teams, and what the role, the specifics of the role, and asked me questions about my experience and then looking at my resume and just from our conversation and things like that. And great conversation. And asked me if I had any questions. I held up a piece of paper. I had printed out my questions, and I had almost a a page. It was like 8 or 9 questions. I was like, actually, I do. I said, I'm checking them off as you're answering them without even knowing them. He's like, okay, good. He goes, so we'll take time, and then, I'll share some more with you. Well, I was asking questions that we were getting into other, like, maybe more details of, like, some things that projects, initiatives, like things like that, or expectations, leadership style, like all of those kinds of things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I'm asking a lot of questions, and I know that you have some more stuff you want to get back to, and I just need like maybe 5-7 minutes. Like, so we continued to talk. I asked a couple more questions, and then asked him, naturally about next steps. And he goes, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. He said by the end of this week, the recruiter will get back to you, and will let you know. He said there will be one more round of interviews, and that would include his manager as well as a lead in talent management. And he said those are individuals that you would likely interact with, and I want to make sure that you're aware of who these people are, make sure, if you jive with them and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay. So then put on my patience hat again, right, and wait. And it was 2 hours later, 3 hours, maybe it was a little bit longer than that, 5 or 6 hours. It was in the afternoon. It was like it was like 3 or 4 hours. I get an email, I check my email, and I got an email from the recruiter saying that she had spoken to him after my interview and wanted to move me to the next round, and if I had availability Monday or Tuesday of next week. And I'm like, holy crap, like so excited. Also like, holy crap, like just making sure I'm prepared and going into that conversation. I'm very excited. With every conversation about the role, about the organization, with the people that I'm meeting in the organization, it has got me more excited. If I hadn't shared before, I was very uncertain whether I would go back into a corporate environment. It has been, 6 months since I had found out I had been laid off from my prior organization, but the biggest thing for me was that I was missing learning and development. And there's something about the structure of being in an organization. Yes, I'm the CEO of my own business, and I can ebb and flow that work and the contract work that I do, which is very, very nice. And I managed all of that before when I was working full time and teaching. It's in my nature and kind of who I am. So if anybody has heard of human design, I'm a manifesting generator. So when I learned that in the last couple of years, it was like, oh, like this all makes sense now. And I was even a little bit afraid when I did get laid off and even thinking in the prior years to getting laid off, of potentially taking my business on its own and leaving the corporate environment. I was worried about that manifesting generator piece of me, and if I would have enough to satisfy me. And so in some way, maybe this is me saying, like, I need this piece back. It's just finding the right fit and the right place for it. So next week, I have that next level interview, and then hopefully from there, I think by mid-April, a decision will be made, and we'll see where things go from there. So my mom had come over a couple weeks ago, and she's like, you are really calm about all of this. And before I would be freaking out and like, what do I do? And not being able to sleep and like just being restless about it. And I was like, I don't have control over it. I only have so much control. And some of that goes into preparing for the interview and taking care of myself and, focusing on the things that I need to focus right now on, the work that I do have, and put my all into that. So there has been growth, my own personal growth, in hearing her say that to me and realizing that. And so that makes me feel really good. So wanted to share just a little bit of my own journey, kind of where things are at, and may not actually put this out there until I might actually put this in my group now that I think about it versus like on the podcast and just share with the Let's Talk About Layoffs, Navigating Careers and More community as to kind of what I'm going through there. So the thing that was really, really helpful and even getting that phone screen was knowing somebody in the organization. And I didn't even know about the role. She's the one that she ended up having dinner with the hiring manager's manager when she was out of town at their headquarter location. And the lady mentioned that they were looking for somebody, and she was like, oh, I might know somebody. And so having somebody like that is just golden, to think of you and to kind of push you a little bit too, because she texted me and said, hey, would you be interested in this? I said, I don't know right now. Like, I'm not sure if I want to go back. And then I think it was almost 2 weeks later, and I was like, you know what? I am. I'm cleaning up my resume. I'm going to go for this and see what happens. And I remember her initially even saying, well, I already gave her your LinkedIn, like told her all about you, and just sorry, not sorry kind of thing. So it's nice when you have people looking out for you from that respect. And what I'm hearing for the job market right now is typically for every 100 resumes submitted, people are getting maybe one interview, one phone screen kind of thing from 100 resumes submitted. The one thing that does concern me is that there are some programs or some platforms that you can go into and do like more of a mass apply, or they help apply you to jobs. And I am actually testing one out just to see what it's like and what I think of it. It didn't bring in as many jobs and organizations as I thought it may, but it could also be because of the specialized area. So I was searching more on training. I did look under some human resources, but some of those were more HR roles that I would not be, maybe not as qualified for, but not interested in. So the types of roles were very limited. Whereas if you're somebody looking for maybe like a project manager and you're very open as to what that looked like, that could open up a lot more. So I think that has a dependency too. But there are some individuals that are going in and they're doing these mass applications, and it's like throwing things out, seeing what sticks to the wall, which I understand, especially when you desperately need a job and with the money and the market and all of that kind of stuff. But the thing that concerns me the most about this happening is that recruiters have to be getting overwhelmed with underqualified candidates for roles, or individuals. Like, when I say underqualified, like these most individuals, they haven't even looked at the job description, or they don't know. Like, it depends a lot on how that is filtered, like those kinds of systems. But it really worries me because it's very taxing on a recruiter when they get 400 or 500 applicants or more for a job role, and they're having to sift through all of these to kind of figure out what's the right group. So that's going to take a long time for the recruiter to do that. And then they might, by the time they go through all of that, they find the small group of people that might be qualified, say maybe there's 10, and they reach out, and then they start to lose people because by that time maybe they've already found other jobs, or they're not really interested once they see more of the job description or hear more about it or look at the company or something like that. And then that pool gets smaller and smaller. And I'm also wondering if that is part of the reason that so many recruiters end up reposting jobs. So I had a messaging conversation with a friend this morning, and we were talking about how many jobs we've seen reposted, like in LinkedIn. And it's like, you have to have good qualified candidates in there. So there's something with some of the filtering with some of these systems. People are getting overwhelmed with the number, the sheer number, and then how are you filtering out? How are you looking at it? A lot of that has to do with the system itself that the organization is using for their hiring. Also has to do with the recruiter and the skills of the recruiter and making sure that they're able to find and look for what they are. But thinking about the time it takes to do all of this, and then what you get and the output is you have to start to go through the cycle again. So if you know somebody in a company, or looking at how you can leverage LinkedIn to connect with individuals in the industry of your interest, at the companies that you're interested in, having that name to help to forward something internally, to get the ball rolling, to help give you a recommendation, anything like that is going to be a step in the right direction and a helpful direction for you when you're in this crazy cyclical nature of the market and the what's happening as a result of some of these different tools that are out there, and just again the market, the sheer number of people applying for roles, and what that ends up doing to the recruiter on the back end. And on a prior podcast episode, I had talked with two recruiters. One was a prior recruiter, one was a current recruiter, and they're both career coaches as well. And they were talking about, one of them had mentioned, hey, if I got 200 resumes or applicants for a role, I'm going through, taking that few seconds to pull up their resume and go through those. So you definitely want to make sure that if you have somebody to help you get into that door, to help bring your name to the top of that pile. And the other important thing is making sure that your resume is as good as it can be, and that if those, let's say 30-second view of your resume, and think about if that 30 seconds is really getting you that top fold of the first page, what's on there for yours? Take a look at your resume, maybe print it out, pull it up on the computer screen, and look at that top half. And if you were somebody hiring for a role, do you have information in that top half that is supportive to say, hey, pick me, like I'm the person you want to talk to? So definitely there's a lot of variables in the overall process. But thinking about two of those things that you can control, when I go back to what can we control, is making sure that you're connecting, that you are leveraging LinkedIn, leveraging those connections, and building those relationships. And then also making sure that your resume, if you have that 30-second or less hit, and especially that top fold of that first page, what impression are you giving? And if that means you need to give your resume to somebody else to get some feedback, and they could tell you, or maybe you give them a job description and you give them, your resume, or maybe you only give them the top fold and you say, hey, based on information you're seeing here, like, do you think that you would even talk to me, kind of thing, to get some insight. But those are just a couple things and some food for thought, things on my mind this morning. Let me know if that resonates, if that is helpful for you, or what questions that you have. Thanks.